Tons of big wrestling news post WWE Clash in Paris. Happy Labor Day, my friends. This is your boy Ango, and this is the Ango Show. If you guys want more videos like this, don't forget to click that subscribe button as we are in the hunt for 100,000 subscribers. I want to kick things off with Stephanie McMahon because it looks like she might have a little bit of heat on her for some things that she said during her podcast. Now, she did an advertisement read on What's Her Story, or excuse me, What's Your Story? And it's the podcast that Stephanie McMahon has under the Fanatics WWE network. And according to Fightful Select, at least one source that they spoke to at ESPN let them know that ESPN wasn't thrilled by the VPN ad read on Stephanie McMahon's podcast. The insider added that they didn't expect it to turn into a major issue, but noted the awkwardness given WWE's new business relationship with ESPN. Now, for those who missed it, Stephanie McMahon basically was promoting a VPN as a way to access Netflix international content, which in America, we don't have that access, right? That is something that we have to use. We have to pay for ESPN, we have to pay for Peacock, we have to pay for Netflix. Like, we got to have multiple different options. Whereas internationally, if you want all the WWE shows and PLEs, then you just watch it on Netflix. So basically, I can understand why there would be a little bit of frustration there. I can understand why there would be a little bit of heat there, because the idea is to drum up interest for the ESPN direct-to-consumer application. Now, in my personal opinion, I think what Stephanie McMahon was recommending to people makes a lot of sense, right? I think a lot of people probably understand what's happening there. And this is why you see so many people promoting VPNs in today's day and age within the wrestling community. But what I will say is this. I think Stephanie McMahon, I don't even really know her position with WWE. It's actually really strange because we know she was co-CEO with Nick Khan. We know that she was doing her thing, and then she eventually left. She came back, then she left again. But now we're starting to see her pop up more under the WWE window again. We've seen her on TV, kind of like hosting the show or whatever. I don't know what to make of Stephanie McMahon's role in the WWE, and I don't know if she technically has a contract with the WWE. So listen, I'm just kind of throwing it out there. I don't know if there's any sort of trouble that she could actually get in with ESPN and WWE, because yes, she is doing the podcast, and yes, she's making appearances, but I don't believe she's actually signed to the WWE. Maybe she is, maybe she isn't. Maybe there's a talent contract involved. I think there's a lot that we don't know here, but I could also understand why ESPN probably wasn't too thrilled about it to begin with. Okay, and that brings us to our next topic. A WWE tag team has been teasing a breakup, and I want to talk a little bit more about this specifically because we saw some stuff at Clash in Paris that really just makes me believe we are on the way to a singles push for Montez Ford. So yes, the Street Profits continue to tease their split. Obviously, we saw them in the tag team championship match against the Wyatt Six at Clash in Paris, and it was actually a really fun match, and I think it had its really good moments. But the talking point, aside from the Wyatt Six retaining the belts, was that the Street Profits continue to be off. They're not on the same page. And we've actually seen with the Street Profits, one thing that's been really crazy to me is within the Street Profits and how they've been, doing interviews, and obviously what's happening on Friday Night SmackDown to now what's happening in Clash in Paris. Yeah, I think it's very realistic that WWE is going to split them up. And then, of course, you have these moments when there's a little bit of tension. You got Montez Ford tagging himself in. Angelo Dawkins is annoyed, when he puts up his arm trying to like stop him, like hold him back type thing. It's become a talking point because I don't know if right now is the best time to tease this breakup. But I have some concerns too, because we saw what they did with Theory and Waller, where it kind of led to nothing. And then when you see what's happening here with Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins, I don't want this to be a situation where they keep teasing it for a very long time and then nothing really comes out of it. But I also don't know if it's the right time because there's just so many people who are deserving of a singles push. What do you do with Montez Ford? Does Montez Ford go singles and become Intercontinental Champion or U.S. Champion? Or do you maybe keep that spot open for somebody like Rusev, who just beat Sheamus? Do you keep that open for maybe somebody like, LA Knight? Or there's just a lot of situations right now where it's like too many people are being pushed. The roster is bloated. We all know the roster is bloated. I mean, it's a common issue amongst WWE and AEW. So how do you make room for a singles push for a tag team? And also, it is happening at a time where, trust me when I tell you guys this, I genuinely believe SmackDown's tag team division is on fire. And a major contributor to that is the Street Profits, right? So they've definitely been involved with a lot of stuff. I don't know if it makes a lot of sense for them to actually break up just yet. But at the same time, I am one of those fans who can openly admit I am really excited about the possibility of Angelo Dawkins having a singles push and also Montez Ford. So maybe instead of them actually being like broken up right now, we'll see when WWE has their draft plans. But maybe you could do a breakup where these guys don't actually have heat with one another. Yeah, they might be visibly annoyed. Yeah, they might not be on the same page. But maybe just break them up through the draft if that's the case. I would be much happier with that. I feel like if you break them up through the draft, that just leads to a better situation in case that you want to bring them back together. In case that Angelo Dawkins or Montez Ford possibly don't work out as a singles act. That's the kind of way I would go about it. And that brings me to our final story. Ladies and gentlemen, AJ Lee coming back to WWE. Not the first time I've talked about this. In fact, I talked about this last year. I think the writing was on the wall with CM Punk and Seth Rollins' feud. I've openly talked about this for a year now, not in the sense of, oh my God, it's happening right away, but the long-term plan was to bring AJ Lee back. And one of the things I talked to you guys about a year ago on this channel was it matters creatively. There is stuff that was being said, like AJ Lee coming back has to be a big creative exploration. You can't just bring AJ Lee back and do it randomly on Backlash. Like, there has to be a massive storyline in which it's needed, and then there has to be a massive event for the match to take place on. And I think with WWE, I mean, they are openly teasing AJ Lee coming back. They are openly talking about AJ Lee coming back after what we saw in the main event of Clash in Paris with CM Punk getting lowballed by Becky Lynch. So in my humble opinion, AJ Lee coming back is probably more than likely happening. The best part about an AJ Lee return is that there is so much you can do with this crop of women. There is so much you can do, obviously, with the Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins CM Punk storyline. But not only that, WWE does want to counter-program AEW. That's what they're doing. So imagine you have Brock Lesnar and John Cena, AJ Lee and CM Punk versus Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch. I mean, there is going to be a lot of reason for WWE beating out AEW that day, if that is the, in fact, plan they go with. So I'm excited to see what happens, but this is not a new conversation piece. This is something that we have been talking about regularly on the channel for about a year now, maybe even a little bit more, and I just think it genuinely makes a lot of sense. So I am excited to see what transpires out of it, but of course, the only people that truly know are the people backstage. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the Ango Show.